Hello and welcome to Miniature Adventures. I'm Big Lee, and this week I want to talk about command tensions when sub-commanders go rogue. So this week's talking point touches on the subject of multiple commands and the tensions that this creates on our miniatures battlefields. So let me define what I'm talking about. By multiple commands I mean where there are multiple players on each side, so the overall army needs to be divided between two or more players on each side of the table. And in these sort of situations I expect one player would either take command or be given command, or maybe unwillingly find themselves in command, quite randomly depending on how you divide up armies. The other players are the sub-commanders, but how much autonomy can they have, or indeed should they have, once the commander has decided on a plan? In short, what are the tensions of command when there are more than one player per side? Now, this subject came up in conversation last weekend, but it's been discussed many times over the years. When you have two or more players commanding one side of a game, does this inevitably create extra additional friction in carrying out a coherent plan to defeat the enemy opposing you? Now, I think that without a strong chain of command, individual players can easily end up playing their own battle without reference to what is happening around them. Is everyone on the same page? Are they following the plan that was discussed before the game even started? And what happens when one player deviates from that plan because of how they read the situation facing their particular portion of the command, maybe without taking a look back and looking at the big picture? Now, I think it's true to say that in most of the multiplayer games I have taken part in, there is usually plenty of opportunity for sub-commanders to confer, while in practice it actually doesn't always happen. Now, I have also played games where one side has more commanders than the other, and where it's felt as if the bigger team have the harder task trying to coordinate their plan, because you end up with three players fighting three separate battles, ostensibly for one option, one outcome, but in reality they're all playing their own little game. So, as is so often the case, all the individual players are reacting differently and diverging from that cohesive strategy that was agreed on before the battle started because of what they find in their part of the battlefield. It's inevitable that when you give a degree of freedom to an autonomy over part of your army to a sub-commander in a game, that they're going to react individually. Now, I can think of hundreds of examples where this has been true in the real world, even in the most disciplined of armies. Local commanders see the situation and the changes that are facing them and react accordingly. Now, a good commander can do this while maintaining the objectives set by their superiors, but plenty of lesser commanders, both in war and around the games table, may not have that skill. Maybe multiplayers per side is the best option for adding some of that command tension to a game. I can't remember where I read it, but I've heard it said that a battlefield commander can only effectively directly command 3 to 5 people at a time. So while the overall commander may set the objectives and strategy, in reality there may be several layers of sub-commanders of various levels whose job it is to make that vision a reality on the ground. On the Wargames table, that may mean one overall commander and several core or divisional commanders beneath them. In most of the games that I've played, that isn't entirely accurate, with the army commander usually ended up acting as one of the core commanders alongside the other players, and he or she usually has their hands full dealing with their own core level challenges faced, the same as faced by their colleagues, as well as taking that overview and responding accordingly. Now, with double the workload, it's perhaps unsurprising that once the game starts, the army commander is too busy fighting his own portion of the battle to deal with subordinates who are straying from the wider plan. So maybe what really should be happening is that the overall commander doesn't move any figures, instead concentrating on the subordinates getting their boots on the ground feedback and adjusting the overall plan as required. Now, aside from large Kriegspiel type games, which I hasten to add I've not actually done myself, I don't know of any rule systems that encourage that sort of division of control. Maybe for those big multiplayer battles it's an option worth considering. Of course, that still leaves the commander with how to deal with an uncooperative sub-commander, There's no court-martial around the games table after all. But at least they will be able to focus on the big picture and prod subcommanders to follow the plan or adapt the plan according to that one person's vision. So as usual, I want to ask what you think on the subject. In the games that you have played, where you have multiple commanders on a side, do you think it adds an interesting level of friction to your pre-battle plans? Does it enhance the feel of these games? Are these tensions between the commanders a realistic reflection of the period you're playing? And does it improve your enjoyment of the game even if it comes at the expense of the mission objectives? Or do you think that it is such a hindrance that you could only ever play battles where it's one player per side? As always, I'd love to hear your knowledge, ideas and experience in the comments below. So we're going to have a bit of a long-winded channel update this time. So over the last month the channel has had another growing spurt. Mostly it seems off the back of a couple of very well performing videos from earlier in the month. Now it goes without saying that I'm very, very grateful and happy where the channel's got to. In the last month alone the channel's acquired over 300 subscribers, which is completely awesome and totally unexpected. There's always periods when subscription numbers seem to tail off a little bit and you think, alright, maybe I've hit the ceiling for this type of channel. But if this month's performance is anything to go by, that ceiling could be a long, long way off. So to everyone new who's joined the channel, welcome. I'm so glad you've decided to become a subscriber. I'd love to see what you think in the comments and so on. I really do enjoy reading comments, and where I can, time permitting, I try to respond to as many as I can. And the comment section is also an excellent place for your suggestions. I'm always putting out a call out for ideas for subjects to talk about in these weekly talking point videos. Sometimes it's really easy to come up with a subject and get a script written. Most weeks it's like trying to squeeze blood out of a stone. So if you have a suggestion for a topic that you think I could discuss in under 10 minutes, please let me know. And if you do have an idea, please write it in the form of a question, put a question mark at the end, so that I can do a search through all the comments. I can actually search for any questions in there and it will pull them all up and I can go, right, yeah, that's a topic, and so on. It's just a really easy way of me aggregating all of those suggestions. So when you're getting hundreds of comments, it just pulls them all together so that I can decide which are the ones that I'm going to respond on, which am I going to turn into a script. And I'll try and respond as many of these as I can. And of course I'll give you a shout out if I choose one of yours. You also get the satisfaction of contributing to this growing community of wargamers who like to talk about wargaming. So time for a hobby update. Aside from enjoying the channel analytics, what else have I been up to this week? Well, you may already have seen that I put out another quick strike video on Friday for a game which took place last weekend. This was another Franco-Prussian clash using They Died for Glory. The Battle of Beaumont was a dramatic clash of Prussian might and French slipperiness as the Frogs executed a fighting withdrawal while under intense pressure from the Germans. The end result was a very, very tight win for the French, as they just about managed to better the historical outcome. Just about. I mean, it was that close. If you haven't already seen it, please check out my quick strike battle report for the game. I'll also put a link in the description box below from Richard's blog post on the game. It contains a lot more information on the scenario, orders of battle and maps that he used. Now after the game I did have a chance to have a chat with the lads about some upcoming events and sort out our calendars. There always seems to be a lot going on, and aligning our ducks in a row so that we can attend various events usually requires a degree of forward planning and a day pass from our significant others, it has to be said. Fortunately we're a well organised bunch and our wives are very forgiving of our silly hobby. So next weekend I'm going to be at the Lambeth Lard event, hosted by the South London Warlords. Now, I want to try out Sharp Practice, which I've never played before, so I've signed up to one of those games. And then my second choice game for the day is going to be What a Tanker, because I just really enjoy playing that. So I'm really looking forward to that day and meeting the guys from the South London Warlords and having a chat with people there. Now the week after, Some of the rejects are going to be going to Partisan. That's on the 19th of May. We're not running a game, but we will be there drooling over the amazing demo games that this show always seems to have to offer. And of course we'll be taking a ton of photos for a post-show report. This is always, it has to be said, a great show and a superb opportunity to see the best historical war games being showcased. And also during May, the rejects have a couple of practice games that we're going to try and fit in somewhere, so that we can prepare our demo that we will be running at Broadside on the 8th of June in Gillingham. Now Ray has a game lined up, details to be revealed later, but we need a couple of playtests to iron out any problems with the scenario that is chosen. And this is always a fun show to attend, and is traditionally our regular one for running a demo game. We've all had a go in the past, myself a couple of times and so on. We all take turns. This year it just happens to be Ray's turn, so I really hope his game turns out well, because I think he's worked really hard on it. Now, a week after Broadside is the Rapture Gaming Festival on the 15th and 16th of June at Chatham Dock. Now, last year the rejects were there helping Barry Hilton play his Battle of Chatham game. This year the rejects won't be running a game, so I'm going to take the opportunity to visit the show as a punter. Now, we were so busy last year that I didn't get to look around at all, so I'm really looking forward to going and just concentrating on enjoying the event. I think my daughter might be coming with me, and we're going to attend. I'll be there camera in hand, of course, taking loads of photographs, and I'll try and report back on the event afterwards. Then at the end of June, I'm going back to the Tank Museum in Boverton for Tank Fest. Now, this is a massive living history event with some of the Tank Museum's best running vehicles on display in the tanks in the arena. Now, I'm going with my son-in-law, and the pair of us can just geek out all day with a load of heavy metal roaring past, the smell of diesel. Couldn't ask for a better day. Now, with Broadside and Tank Fest out of the way, then it's my turn to commandeer the Shed of War for a game. I will at last be doing my version of Bosworth with my Wars of the Roses collection. Tentatively that will be sometime late July, I think, so finally I have a time scale in mind for that game and any final preparations I need to make for it. Knowing how challenging the rejects can be when faced with a new set of rules, I know I'll have my work cut out for me. So that's it for this week, slightly shorter than usual. As I said earlier, please join in the conversation in the comments below, and if you're a newbie, please leave your suggestions if you've got any ideas for topics that you'd like me to cover. If I can talk to about them in under 10 minutes, please put that suggestion in the comments below. Like I say, as a question, that way I can search it and I can find your suggestions, and you never know, you might get one of your subjects turned into one of these talking point videos. And of course, if you've enjoyed today's video, please like, subscribe and share. It then boosts the channel, draws in new viewers. And if you want to keep up to date with weekly content from the channel, please tap the bell notification icon. So until next week, stay safe, keep gaming, and of course, keep rolling high.